Failing to plan is planning to fail. This is part one of two. So I'll share with you all my story, briefly as possible. Especially in primary school, I used to fail most of the times, especially within my first 3 years. Well, apart from infants, that was standard one, two, and three until the last two in standard three. Of course, there was divine intervention because I shared this in more detail before. And then by the time I was in high school, I had, well, my teachers in school and then I had lessons. And I still had no plan really. I was just going with the flow, just winging everything. And I did pass all my subjects at CSEC. Two of them I did exceptionally well in. Those were the two that I was in lessons for. The others, by the grace of God, I was able to pull through and pass those also. Um, Form six though, the distractions, um, social media, But there was one subject in particular. I don't know if I'll talk more about that in this video, but there was one subject in particular that I failed, which was econ. Think I'll talk about that in part two. I'll focus on that. And by the time I completed CAPE, I had some subjects pass, a few subjects fail. And then university was the next step, not immediately after, well, a couple of years later. But by the time I decided to pursue my education at a higher level, I said to myself, like I had serious standards, like I am not going to accept less than honors. I'm not graduating without honors. And because I was so um grounded on that and I really, really, really wanted to accomplish that goal, guess what? Nothing could not have stopped me. So what am I saying is that I went from an individual who never used to plan to an individual who would plan almost every day. I want to say 99%, okay, 98% of the time. I went from zero planning to planning 98% of the time because sometimes the hard days you don't always feel like it. Sometimes you have to push yourself through. Yes, the hard those days. Sometimes you skip a little bit, but most of the times, by the time I was um pursuing my higher education, I was literally on a roll. And I could tell you one thing that I could tell you. When I never used to have a plan, I used to feel a lot of times. Um, I was going back and forth. There was inconsistency where 1 minute you feel it, next minute you do it again, next minute you feel it. It's like this type of up and down thing, like I see so. But when I started implementing plans and taking my studies more seriously as a result, never failed any course or subject after that ever. So I know from years of doing this, right, that people who actually plan, and when we say plan, we're not just talking about something in a hurry down thing, talking about something that's very strategic, something that works. Now, some people would be able to tweak because there are other teachers, and some of you would know at the academy, and we have, lays before, and some of them do slightly different things where they're planning that works for them. But the thing is, these teachers who use slightly different planning from me, they work for other people. Now, I know a lot of you who listen to me are either still fully in school and some of you are working adults, right? Who are pursuing your education. But yes, some of them are still, they work for other people. So there's a certain level of discipline, a certain level of planning that's required when you have people overseeing you like that and you have supervisors. Me, on the other hand, being a business owner, I don't really have people overseeing me. So my plan, it has to be so strict. It has to be a whole different level and it has to work. So pretty much a lot of the same things I did when I was in university and utilizing plans. It's the same thing I do most of the times. Not every single thing all the time, but a lot of those things to keep me on track with my tasks and my duties and what it is I have to do. So if you don't have a plan, you are already planning to fail. If it is you do not want to fail, you need to develop a plan. You need to have a strategy, right? Because you don't want to be saying, I studied, and then you don't know what exact goal you're studying to obtain. And that goes back to the first week when I did SMART goals. If your goals are not smart, and you're talking things like, I want to pass. What is a pass grade? It starts from all these things, all these themes must connect, right? And once you all put together your SMART goals and you do everything else I have been sharing over the weeks and will continue to share as the weeks progresses and the months, all right? You realize there's some level of change in terms of your academic performance. Attending classes is good, but that is not the only thing that's going to help you do well. I can share so many stories with you all, but I will do so in some of my upcoming videos where I share tips, strategies, things to help you all go from failing or that repeated cycle of failure. So, why planning changes everything? It spreads out your workload over time, right? So you don't have to be waiting as a lot of students tend to cram and wait a few days or several hours before an exam before they actually study, right? It reduces stress and it builds your confidence. So I encourage you all to say this affirmation with me. I create detailed plans that guide my step by step, that guide me step by step towards accomplishing my goals. And if you all know anyone, whether they are in Form 4, Form 5, any student who is pursuing their education and they don't know how to plan or they need some form of encouragement, feel free to share. All right? Feel free to share.